texture mapping. Image textures are always two-dimensional. They only have X and Y coordinates. This is different from 3D models which have X, Y, and Z coordinates. Now, if we have a 3D model, say this teapot object, and we have a texture, say this brick texture, we can imagine that this 3D model is a gift that we want to wrap using this paper with a brick texture. There are so many scenarios that we can use to wrap the gift with this paper. We can wrap the gift like this, or like this, or like this, and so on. There are almost endless possibilities of how we can go about it. These methods of placing 2D images onto 3D models are what we call UV mapping, or texture mapping, or just mapping for short. Now, besides image textures, several procedural textures are also two-dimensional, so they also need texture mapping to work correctly. If we create a mapping for a certain 3D object, that information is stored within a 3D object itself using a special data block called the UV map channel. In Blender, you can check the UV channels in the Data tab inside the UV Maps category. By default, it is named UV Map. You can have more than one UV channel, and you can rename them also with any name you like. We will work with this UV Map channel in the upcoming videos. Because there can be so many scenarios, Blender also provides many different techniques for texture mapping. It may be confusing to some beginners, as these techniques can be accessed in different parts of Blender. To make sense of all of these techniques, I grouped them into 3 different categories. They are dynamic projection, UV projection, and finally UV unwrap. We are going to dive into each of these categories one by one in the following videos. But just to give you a quick insight, out of these 3 categories, the dynamic projection is unique because it does not require a UV map channel to work. As the name implies, the mapping is generated dynamically based on the object's local coordinate. So you can just plug a material into any object without any hassle. The downside though, this technique only works inside Blender or the software that generates it. If you try to export the 3D model to other software, the texture will break. The other downside is that it only works for simple projection types such as flat, box, sphere, etc. It is useless for complex models with complex textures. The second category is the UV projection method. Basically, it is a projection method like before, but the result of the projection is baked or stored inside a UV channel of the model. So, you can export the model to any software without any problem. The last one is the UV unwrap method. This is the most advanced method that can be used on complex models with complex textures. This method also stores the mapping information inside a UV channel of the model. Unlike the previous 2 categories, this method requires us to define the seams. In short, the seams are edges that we mark or tag to tell Blender where to cut the model. If you are still confused, don't worry, we'll get to that in later lessons, inshallah. To prepare for the upcoming lessons, let's create an image texture. For this, we are not going to use Photoshop or Krita, but we will create the image right inside Blender. So yes, Blender can do that. First, open the image editor, or just open the rendering tab. As you can see, this window is actually the image editor. To create a new image, simply open the image menu, and then choose New. Let's name our new image as My Texture, or any names that you like. Leave the width and height to 1024 pixels, and also leave the color black as we are going to generate the texture. Turn off the alpha option as we don't need it. Now, this is the important part. In the generated drop-down list, choose Color Grid, and then click the New Image button. And here is your image. If you want to save this image to an external file, You can do so by opening the image menu again, then choose Save As. You can specify the file format here and the file name here. Or you can also have the image saved within the blend file when you save it. But in order to do this, you need to click this shield icon to create a fake user for it. Remember, just like materials, images will also get purged when we close and reopen Blender. That is, if the image is not being used by any materials in the scene. By turning on the fake user option, Blender will keep the image and prevent it from being purged. Alright, next, we can select the default cube object, create a material for it, and then, while the Principled BSDF node is selected, press Ctrl T to add nodes for an image texture. As a reminder, this shortcut only works if you have the Node Wrangler add-on active. Okay, now to load the image we just created, you don't need to click the Open button. Simply click on this drop-down list and then select My Texture, which is the name we gave to the image before. Now, if you activate the Material Preview mode or the Rendered mode, we can see the new texture on the surface of the cube object. You need to save this file, as we will be using it again in the future lessons.